There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from watching a game like that one on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just, the cheering. It's the mental toll.
Oh.
If you're a Wyoming Cowboys fan, you didn't just watch a football game against Northern Illinois. You survived an interrogation.
That is a very vivid way of putting it. An interrogation.
Seriously. It felt like the team was being asked play after play,
Mm-hmm.
are you for real?
Mm-hmm.
Can you handle it when things go wrong? Because let's be honest, up to this point,
Nothing had gone wrong.
exactly, they've just been cruising this season.
You're right. And that's what makes this 24-21 win so much more interesting to break down than, a blowout. We know Wyoming can crush teams when everything's clicking. We've seen it.
Right.
But what we hadn't seen until this game against the Huskies is how they react when the game script just gets thrown in the trash.
Mm-hmm.
This was an identity crisis happening in real time.
An identity crisis. I like that.
Yeah.
And looking at the final score, you see a W. And you might think, okay, business as usual. But the process of getting that win was messy. It was stressful. And frankly, it exposed some things.
It really did.
So the mission for this deep dive isn't just a high five over the victory. We need to figure out if this was a fluke, a bad day, or if NIU exposed a crack in the armor.
And that crack specifically was in the secondary. We're going to talk a lot about the no-fly zone later and whether that nickname needs to be temporarily suspended.
Yeah, maybe.
We also have to talk about resilience because as ugly as it was, they didn't fold.
That's the key word, resilience.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to the redemption at the end, we have to talk about the shock to the system. The game starts, and I think everyone expected Wyoming to just impose their will.
Of course.
They're the favorites. And then NIU gets the ball.
And this is where the entire narrative flipped, like immediately. You mentioned they hadn't trailed all season.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the psychology of that.
Yeah.
You're 5 games in, you feel invincible. Then Brady Davidson, the NIU quarterback, he steps back. He didn't look rattled. He didn't look confused. He looked comfortable.
Comfortable if you're a Wyoming fan. He drives them right down the field. And then that pass to Cameron Johnson, 15 yards, touchdown, 7-2 Huskies.
And it wasn't just the touchdown, it was how easy it looked.
Right.
Usually Wyoming's defense relies on confusion, right? Making the QB hold the ball just a second too long so the rush gets there. Davidson wasn't holding it. He was seeing the soft spots in the zone and just letting it rip.
That pass to Johnson felt like a schematic win for them. He knew exactly where the coverage was breaking down.
So suddenly, for the first time in weeks, Wyoming is looking up at the scoreboard and they're behind. I imagine the sideline had to be a little tense.
Oh, for sure.
It creates instant pressure. When you're ahead, you can stick to your playbook. When you're down early and your defense just got sliced up, there's a temptation to panic. You think, we need to score now.
You start taking risky shots. You abandon the run.
But, and this is to their credit, they didn't do that.
No, they didn't.
And this is where the veteran leadership showed up. They get the ball back down 7-0. And instead of asking Nate Johnson to throw some 50-yard bomb,
They turned to Teron Kelman.
yeah,
The old reliable.
exactly. Hand the ball off, let Kelman run into some bodies. It does 2 things. It gains yards, obviously, but it also slows the heart rate of the entire team down. It says, we're fine, we can still run our offense.
It grounds the game, literally.
Right. And once they establish that rhythm, then Nate Johnson goes to work. He finds Kellen Washam for the touchdown to tie it up. And that response was just critical.
Because if they'd gone 3 and out there.
Oh, it could have spiraled. The crowd gets anxious. The defense goes back out. They're already tired.
Yeah, so it's 7-7. Crisis averted. Right. We took their best shot. We punched back.
Or so we thought.
But then the second quarter starts, and it becomes clear that NIU wasn't just running off a scripted opening drive. They actually had a plan.
A very effective plan.
Yeah.
And that plan seemed to revolve around one guy, Drew Wagner.
I have a feeling we're going to be saying his name a lot.
He was a problem, a legitimate problem. Brady Davidson comes back out for the second drive. And again, the Wyoming pass rush just isn't getting home.
No pressure.
He's got time, or he's getting rid of it quick. He hits Wagner for a 30-yard touchdown, just drops it right in the bucket.
And now it's 14-7. So the fluke theory is officially out the window. NIU is moving the ball at will.
And this is where I want to pause on Nate Johnson. Because we talk about physical skills all the time, arm strength, speed, but the mental game is huge for a quarterback.
Totally.
He just watched his defense give up another lead. It would be so easy for him to start pressing, to think, okay, I have to be Superman because my defense is having a bad day.
Right. He might start forcing throws into double coverage just to keep pace.
That's the danger.
Yeah.
But Johnson didn't take the bait. He stayed disciplined. The source material mentions he basically just ignored the noise. He led another drive, very businesslike, and they capped it off with a Kelman run.
Tie game, 14-14. Okay, so the offense is doing its job. They're matching NIU blow for blow. But defensively, man, it felt like every time NIU touched the ball, they were threatening.
It did, and late in the second quarter, NIU is driving again. They look unstoppable again, and you're sitting there thinking,
Oh, no.
if they score here, and then they get the ball to start the second half, this is real trouble.
And then chaos. The great equalizer.
The turnover.
Bo Shelley. Talk about a timely play. NIU running back Kevin Dukes has the ball. He's fighting for extra yards, and Shelley just jars it loose.
It was a violent hit, a perfect punch-out. And context matters here. That's 4 games in a row the defense has forced a turnover. It's becoming part of their DNA.
But here's my question. Is that sustainable? Because it felt like the defense was getting torched and they got bailed out by one fumble. Can you really rely on hopefully we strip the ball as your strategy?
That's the million-dollar question. And no, you can't rely on it. Turnovers are often high-variance plays. They're luck and skill combined.
Right.
You'd much rather force a punt because you played 3 good downs of coverage than give up 60 yards and hope for a fumble. But, in the moment, you take the gift.
And they capitalized on the gift, sort of. They turned it into a field goal to take the lead, 17-14. There's 1.1 second left in the half.
And I think every Wyoming fan took a deep breath and thought, okay, we survived the storm. Let's just get to halftime.
And that mindset, let's just get to halftime.
Yeah.
That might have been the problem because NIU did not share it.
Not at all.
This is the part that hurts to talk about, the no-fly zone. We love the nickname. It sounds tough. It sounds intimidating. But in that final minute of the first half,
it was an open runway.
And NIU has 3 timeouts. They have a minute 12. A lot of college teams on the road against a good opponent, they'd probably kneel it.
Maybe run a draw play, yeah.
Not the Huskies. They went for the throat.
They smelled blood. They realized that Wyoming's secondary was not communicating well. There were busts in coverage all half, so Brady Davidson just keeps attacking. And who does he find?
Drew Wagner. Again. And this wasn't a dink-and-dunk drive. This was chunk plays. And then the dagger. A 38-yard touchdown pass to Wagner.
38 yards. With almost no time left on the clock. That has to be just demoralizing.
It's devastating. You work so hard to claw back the lead. You get the big turnover, you kick the field goal, and then in 60 seconds, you give it all back. So instead of going into the locker room up 17-14 and getting the ball back, you go in down 21-17. The momentum just completely evaporated.
I looked at the stats at halftime, and I honestly thought it was a typo. 243 passing yards given up in the first half, 3 passing TDs.
It's a staggering number. I mean, to put that in perspective, 243 yards is a decent full game for a lot of college offenses. Giving that up in 30 minutes, that's a catastrophic breakdown.
So is the no-fly zone just a myth? Or was this a perfect storm of bad execution?
I think it's a bit of both. You have to give credit to NIU. They had a great game plan.
But for Wyoming, it was a lack of adjustment. They kept playing the same coverages, and Davidson kept shredding them. It was the irony of the nickname being used against them. You call yourself a no-fly zone, you put a target on your back.
And NIU hit the bullseye.
Big time.
So halftime happens. I'm assuming the paint was peeling off the walls in the Wyoming locker room.
I'm sure the defensive coordinator had a few choice words, but whatever was said, it worked. Because the second half looked like a completely different sport.
It really did. We went from this arena football shootout to a trench warfare grind. What changed?
Adjustments. The defensive backs started playing tighter. They stopped giving those free releases off the line, and the pass rush finally started to get home a little bit. Not with sacks necessarily, but just making Davidson move his feet.
But the offense also slowed down. It became this tense stalemate. Punt, missed opportunity, punt.
And that's the grind phase. Psychologically, that's tough when you're trailing. You're down 21-17. The clock is your enemy. Every time you punt, you feel the game slipping away.
You start pressing. We have to score on this drive.
Yeah.
And for the entire third quarter, nobody scored.
It felt like the air was getting thinner in the stadium. You get to the fourth quarter, still trailing. The defense is holding firm. They've stopped the bleeding, but the offense just can't find that spark again.
Until crunch time.
And this is where you separate the good teams from the great teams. Can you execute when your legs are heavy, the pressure is maxed out, and you have 5 minutes left to save your season?
5.16 left on the clock.
Right.
Wyoming has the ball. Nate Johnson, who, again, hadn't done much in the second half, he needs a drive.
And he didn't try to be a hero. He just executed the offense. They marched down the field. And then inside the red zone, he finds the tight end Houston Thomas.
A 5-yard touchdown. Nothing fancy.
But highly effective.
Yeah.
That puts Wyoming up 24-21. But here's the thing. 5 minutes is an eternity in modern football.
Oh, absolutely. Especially against a QB like Davidson who already torched you.
Right. I don't think a single person in that stadium felt safe. You just knew NIU was going to get another chance.
And they did. They drove right down the field. The tension must have been suffocating. They get into Wyoming territory. They're knocking on the door of field goal range.
Or a touchdown to win it. And then you get the play of the game. Maybe the play of the season so far.
4th and 2 with 3.02 remaining.
This is it. This is the stress test we talked about at the beginning. If NIU converts this, they probably win the game. They can bleed the clock, kick a field goal.
So Wyoming's defense, which had been humiliated in the first half, had to stand up.
And they did. They stuffed them. The run defense, which we haven't talked about much, absolutely walled up.
That's the redemption. The secondary failed in the first half, but the front seven saved the game in the fourth quarter. That stop on 4th and 2 was pure grit. It wasn't about scheme. It was, we are not letting you get past this line.
And from there, the offense was able to kill the clock, didn't give Davidson the ball back. Game over.
Wyoming 24, NIU 21. A massive sigh of relief.
But
here's the thing. I'm seeing some fans online who are really worried. They're saying, we barely beat NIU. We look terrible. But you seem to think this kind of win is actually good. Better than a blowout.
I do. Look, blowing teams out is fun. It's relaxing. But it doesn't teach you anything about your team. This taught Wyoming that they can take a punch. It taught them that even when their main identity, that pass defense, fails, they can find another way to win. They can win ugly.
So it builds calluses.
Exactly. You can't simulate 4th and 2 with the game on the line in practice. You can't simulate being down 21-17 at half. Now they know they can survive that. That kind of confidence is invaluable.
That makes sense. It proves they can handle a dogfight.
Yeah.
Which is good because looking at the schedule, they might be heading into another one.
Oh, the travel alone makes the next one a dogfight.
We're talking about Hawaii. The battle for the Paniolo.
The islands. It's always tricky. The time change, the humidity, the distractions. It's a long flight. And Hawaii is just a tough place to play.
Do you think this scare against NIU helps them prepare for that trip?
100%. If Wyoming had won this game 45-0, they might have hopped on that plane thinking they were unstoppable.
Yeah, a little complacent maybe.
They might have treated the Hawaii trip like a vacation now. After getting embarrassed for 30 minutes by NIU, they're going to be locked in. They know they have work to do. They know they aren't invincible.
That's a really interesting angle. The humility might be the biggest asset they take on that road trip.
Humility and hunger. They have plenty of film to watch this week of things they did wrong. That keeps you sharp.
But speaking of that film, let's wrap up with a big lingering question. The elephant in the room.
The blueprint.
Yeah. We got the win. We're 3-0 in the conference.
Right.
But 243 passing yards and a half. Brady Davidson looked like an All-American. Is this a one-off? Or did NIU show the rest of the conference how to beat Wyoming?
That is the provocative thought I want everyone to chew on. Every offensive coordinator on Wyoming's schedule is watching that first half tape right now.
Oh, for sure.
They aren't watching the 4th down stop. They're watching Drew Wagner running free in the secondary. They are looking at the soft cushion the corners gave. They are looking at the lack of pressure.
So is the no-fly zone actually a free-fly zone if you know where to attack?
That's the fear. Did NIU expose a structural flaw? Is the scheme broken, or was it just one really bad day? Hawaii throws the ball a lot. We are going to find out very, very quickly if this was a fluke or if it's a trend.
And if Hawaii comes out and throws for 300 yards?
Then Wyoming has a serious problem.
That is a terrifying thought to leave us on, but a necessary one.
It's the reality of football. You're only as good as your last game tape. And the tape from that first half says Wyoming is vulnerable.
Well, on that note, hopefully the defensive backs are watching extra film this week, too. A huge, stressful, ugly, beautiful win for the Cowboys. They stay undefeated in conference play, and they're packing their bags for Hawaii.
Survive and advance. That's all that matters in the standings.
Thanks for tuning in to this deep dive on the Wyoming NIU thriller. Make sure you're with us next week as we break down the battle for the Paniolo. Will the defense bounce back? You won't want to miss it. Until then,